Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Scott Allen, Ryan McGowan and Tam McManus are here with me on this Wednesday, and a big thank you to you for joining us, and of course the commitment, the figures for our programmes right across the board and social media as well has been absolutely fantastic. And of course thank you for the comments on a lot of our stories and all of our ideas that we're pitching to you. Lots of people very complimentary, so thank you to that. Hit the subscribe button. You too could become a member of the football family, and if you download that app, PLZ Soccer's app in Google Play and the App Store, you'll get all the breaking news at your fingertips. Lots to talk about. Of course, the guys have been in top form because we look at this 21st century football now, and you know, you've got 4 games, 5 games, or you're sacked. And we've had 2 managers gone already, Scott, which is just unbelievable. Craig Levein and Steven Naismith.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of pressure obviously on clubs now. Hearts looking to continue the form for last season that we're in, and it's just not went that way. They have been disappointing. They've been conceding week in, week out, and obviously not getting a goal. So ultimately, something has to change, and it's resulted in Steven Naismith obviously losing his job.
Yeah, and I can't wait, because obviously you're going to be a coach pretty soon. You're going to eventually get a manager's job somewhere, and we're all waiting because we're going to have to, Tam, and I know you're not going to evade the situation. You know, Scott goes in, he holds the scarf up above his head, said, you know, I've always supported this club. I'm delighted to be here. So I have photographs, but I'm delighted to be here. And we have to come on, Ryan, especially, has been on a great run of form of 2 half-decent weeks. But we're going to have to say he's got 5 games to save this club.
I know it's difficult. You can know friends in football, Peter, as you know. I've been in this chair, and some of my friends, Stephen Glass, for example, at Aberdeen, who I really like, they're good pals with him. It really stuck in my craw that I had to say he was to get the chop.
Yeah.
And he did message me and say, why are you saying that? But anyway, you've just got to give your opinion, Peter.
Yeah.
And if Scott's goes 3 or 4 games without a win, I'm just saying he's a dud, get him out.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'll be right behind you. and if the centre-back doesn't bring the ball down and play a nice pass to the midfield, I'll be saying he's gone against his footballing principles. But in a serious situation like this, you don't like to see a manager lose his job. But Craig Levein, we discussed, he didn't see it coming. Steven Naismith's a different situation because he probably did realise that with such a big club like that, you called it, you thought if he doesn't win it, he's going to be out.
I think the fans turned on him, and once the fans turn on him, it's really hard to get back. And you know, they've started the season really poorly, which is a big reflection on, you know, the summer signings before the season started. Everyone was really positive about the place. Felt that they brought players in that could enhance the squad, which was already finished comfortably 3rd last year. But it just doesn't seem to be working for him. And like Scotty said, something had to change, and that was him losing his job.
Are you surprised by, you know, Andrew McKinley's comments? He's been interviewed on Hearts TV, basically saying if he'd had a good second 45 minutes against St Mirren, it might have been different. They might have kept him in the job. It's a strange thing for someone to say, isn't it?
I think that's where we're at though with modern football. That is the difference between keeping your job maybe for another 2 weeks or not. And that's how fine the details can be in terms of keeping your job or losing your job, which is ultimately why I think they're maybe looking for a reaction in the second half. If they've not got it, they're probably looking at it going, he's went in changing room at half time and not managed to get the players going, and ultimately that's why that decision came.
Yeah, I mean, as a chief executive, you expect them to, you know, maybe show a bit of resolve, a bit of spine. He had a good relationship with Anne Budge as well. Steven Naismith, he was well liked. I thought they might have stuck with him on it, you know, and had some credit in the bank.
44 days ago or 45 days, what was it? He signed a new 3-year deal. So I think that, and you look at that, I thought it was strange comments, Peter. I thought that, and I agree with Scott 100%. I think the board had been sitting in the stand at St Mirren Park and thought, right, second half, I want to see a reaction. The manager's got to get in there, and we've got to come flying at the traps and show they're still playing for him, show they're still fighting for him. And they haven't, Peter. You know, I watched the highlights. I seen the stats. They were just as poor second half as well. Didn't really deserve a draw. So I think it could have been more goals for St Mirren. I think they've looked at that and went, he's not getting a reaction for the players now, and that's him. His time's up.
Yeah, what happens What happens? I mean, what you probably been? Have you been with a manager who's got the sack?
Yeah, loads of times.
What happens? Because in my mind, the reason why he's out the door is because Lawrence Shankland didn't score goals.
That is one of the factors, and I think his goals last year papered over a lot of cracks. I think there were so many games that there wasn't much in it, and he would score a worldie, and they got the 3 points, which made them finish comfortably third last year. And he has been off it a little bit, but there's been no sort of chances created. You can't even see like him missing 3 or 4 chances this season. He's just not had that service throughout the season, and that's probably down to Steven Naismith and how he wants to play.
He's not the only one, Scott. In my mind, there are games that I've watched this season where on 3 or 4 occasions, if Vargas had anything about him, he'd put the ball in the net.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just about to touch on. I think you can't be reliant on Shankland. The goals have got to come through all over the pitch. If you're just reliant on one player, especially a club like Hearts who finished third, obviously European games to come and see themselves as one of the best teams outside Old Firm, you can't be reliant on one player. And as much as they haven't scored goals or conceding goals, they're not defending well. And we've said for weeks now, both boxes is what ultimately gets you results, and they've not been good enough in both boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to so many people who've joined us to offer their own opinion on this. I like one here that says, I'm just here for Peter's first good lad.
He's a good lad.
He is a good lad. To be fair, I don't know about you, Ryan, but some people ask me, when you get these interviews where people, whether it's people who want to be journalists or want to be commentators or whatever, and they say, they always want the dirt. They say, is there anybody who's a moron, who's just not a good lad, that you didn't love? Well, they're certainly in single figures as a percentage in football, because we all grew up wanting to be professional footballers. We all enjoyed it, and most of the guys have that same sense of humour. You get in a dressing room, it's the one thing that most of my mates who were professional footballers would say, they miss the dressing room. Because you get in the dressing room, you absolutely cane each other. Most of the guys that I played with in teams were desperately unhappy if I scored, because they thought, here's this arrogant prick going to tell us all about how good he is. Whereas, so you get the banter, but there's very few people that are looking and think, oh, you're a moron, I really don't like you. And I've interviewed thousands of footballers, and there's maybe it's a small percentage.
I think it showed, his character, the statement that he put out the other day, thanking everybody, and he still believed that he could get something from the squad. And I'm sure the players, I've spoken to a couple of those players who were disappointed in to see him go, because at the end of the day, he probably brought in near enough that whole squad. He's gave him the platform to go play for a club like Hearts. So I feel like sometimes the manager gets the bullet, but really it's the players that have badly let him down this season.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm open to criticism, and I think it's fair that Les Watts has just put a message over. He says, why is Peter championing Naismith? Because he's a good lad. Christ, man. So he's clearly he's from Aberdeen. He says, Christ, man, just accept he was rubbish, like McCoy's before him. The media bombed them, but they're just not up to it. Well, the flip side of it all is, Tam, he was good last year. He was third last year, and they took some good scalps. They beat Celtic twice. So, do you suddenly become a bad coach overnight? I mean, Neil Lennon's a classic example where people thought he was, he's your pal, you're backing him and everything like that, and then all of a sudden they have the most horrendous year, Celtic. He gets bumped. And they say he wasn't up to it. He was tactically inept. This was another type of accusation that was made to him. He was tactically inept. He wasn't tactically inept when they beat Lazio home and away. Or Barcelona.
That's just probably a big part of that social media. Everybody wants instant results, Peter, and you're either a very good manager one week or you're a dud the next week. And that's just the way it goes. You can go have a great season, and then like Steven Naismith, you could have a poor start to the following season, and all of a sudden you're written off as a dud. Last season, Hearts third comfortably by a mile. I think there were some extenuating circumstances, as in Hibs were rubbish, Aberdeen were rubbish. Lawrence Shankland scored a lot of goals, and as Ryan said, won them games when they weren't great.
Yeah.
but they still managed to finish third. I think you'll see a stronger league in total this. I think you'll see a stronger Aberdeen, definitely stronger Hibs this season. So Hearts have got to pick it up, but yeah, it's just you go from hero to zero so quickly here as a manager because of a big part of that social media and the platforms that people are allowed to go on and comment on.
And by the way, Scott, it's not a crime to be lauded for the fact that your striker's scoring goals all the time. You know, because how many teams have you played in where you've been ranked rotten and the striker has scored the goal that's won you the game, and your ex-teammates in one of your old teams, you know, as I said on one of our shows previously, you know, I went for lunch with Gordon Strachan, and he was the Scotland manager at the time, and he said to us, Romelu Lukaku was up front for West Brom, scoring goals for fun on loan from Chelsea. Steve Clarke was being touted for the Chelsea job. Lukaku left, Steve Clarke gets sacked 6 months later.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think when we're looking at Hearts, is obviously they finished comfortably last season. There needs to be goals from elsewhere. It's just every manager, obviously, when you set your team up, you want to get goals from midfield, you want to get goals from your Vargases of these world. And when
do you think they played good football? I get the goals part. No, you didn't think they were playing good football.
No.
Right?
I think if you ask most Hearts fans last year, it probably wasn't good to watch, but they got the results.
When was it last good to watch at Hearts where you really you tuned into a Hearts game and thought they're really playing good football? I would ask you because obviously you've been there. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, but I think...
What's the best Hearts side you've seen, you know, in the last...
Championship side that won
Yeah.
the league.
Yeah?
Robbie's
Robbie
team.
Nielsen. When Rangers and Hibs were in it.
Did they play good football?
They played good football. I think they got the most ever points from the championship. Won 10-0 or...
Yeah.
And they hounded him out?
That's the nature of a club like Hearts, and I think I've spoken about it before. If you look at what each Hearts fan wants per season, it's to finish third, get closer to Celtic and Rangers, move away from the rest, and have good cup runs, which Naismith ticked near enough all of those boxes last year, made a semi-final, lost to Rangers, and finished third. But that's just the sort of nature of football, isn't it? That they've got off to a slow start. Didn't help that they won third comfortably last year because they then had a couple of bad results towards the end, and now all of a sudden it's 1 win in 12, 1 win in 15, and that kind of goes against it. It would have been interesting to see if he sort of beat Dundee, I think it was, in the second game of the season. Having drawn with Rangers at home, beaten Dundee away, that could have changed the whole narrative of the season. He probably would have still been in the job.
Yeah. Thanks to Les, who says, Peter Amphi Elgin, which is near enough. And then he says, come on the hoops. So he's a local Celtic fan.
big Bucky Thistle fan.
I was just about to say, that's some trek from Elgin, isn't it? Anyway, lots of people commenting, and thank you very much for your comments. Steven Naismith's gone. They've now got to look for a manager. There's various names going in there. Even Derek McInnes has been linked with the job. This is what the Killie boss had to say about it.
No, really, no. No, I actually don't take any notice of it. My job and focus is here. I think I'm at an age now where when you get linked with things or your job's under pressure, people talking about it, I actually don't really see much merit in dwelling on it. So my job fully is on Kilmarnock. And going back to the earlier question, it's just about making sure that we are the team I want us to be, being relevant again as we were last season.
That's an interesting one because, when we were talking about Steven Naismith, Derek, 1 win, and if you look at it, 6 defeats and 5 draws.
Yeah, I don't think they've had a great start to the season, Peter. I think that they've obviously been involved in the European games. Fantastic result against Tromsø, getting through against them.
He's got credit in the bank.
Yeah,
He's
big
got
time.
a board to us.
Yeah, big time. Just signed a new deal as well, and
Yeah.
Copenhagen was a tough tie for them. They've been unfortunate, a couple of guys getting sent off, but I think they've got games coming up that they can go on. They've got the Dundee clubs coming up the next 2 games, so they've got a chance to pick up points. But the thing is, Peter, how far can you take Kilmarnock? He's took them into Europe. Hearts are a far bigger club than Kilmarnock. No disrespect to Kilmarnock. And I think when you look at where Derek could go in Scotland, that's one of the teams for me could go to Hearts. And I think that a lot of Hearts supporters would take Derek McInnes. I think a lot of Hibs supporters were wanting Derek McInnes before David Gray was appointed and before Nick Montgomery was appointed. I just think he knows Scottish football, Peter. He knows how to get results here. He's experienced, and I think that he's definitely got to be on any shortlist that Hearts have got.
Okay, the shortlist I would suggest to you right now is going to be based on Tony Bloom, Jamestown Analytics, and they're going to start looking, and I think the name that they suggest is going to come out of left field, not from our collection of names. If it was me and I wanted Hearts to play the football that was easy on the eye, that was positive, that was on the front foot, and it was a style of football that I like watching, I'd pick John McGlynn all day.
Yeah, I think he's a Hearts fan. He's obviously been at the club. He was at the club when I was coming through, and I worked under him after the 2013. So, yeah, he's someone that has done extremely well with Wraith first and then Falkirk. I think they're still on an unbeaten run in the league, which is unheard of. It must be 45, 46 games now. So it is somebody that they would probably be looking at, but whether that would appease the sort of Hearts fans.
Big enough name. Big enough name for Hearts. No disrespect to
No,
John, but
you're right, but he's not a big enough name. But if we're talking about don't like the football, he plays
ticks a lot of boxes.
Brendan Rodgers' way. They played Falkirk. Hearts played Falkirk. They weathered the storm for 15, 20 minutes, and then absolutely, played them off the park at times with some wonderful passing and attacking football. And at Celtic Park, how many times have you seen anybody go to Celtic Park and take the game to them and high press them and play around them?
Well, I've never been involved in any of those games. But yeah, it is someone definitely that I think that the board would be looking at. I think it would be a lot easier to get McGlynn than McInnes, purely from a financial point of view. I think Hearts fans would possibly prefer McGlynn over McInnes, but that's just a guess. For some reason, a lot of Hearts fans that I speak to aren't that keen on McInnes coming, which is, I find quite strange considering how well he has done previously with Kilmarnock and Aberdeen. But
who would you like to see? Who do you think is an ideal candidate in your mind that you think, I know Hearts played for them, I know the demands of the fans, this is the type of football they want to see? Who would you pick as a manager?
I think John McGlynn would be up there for sure, but I think that they're going to go for somebody that we've never heard of, who's maybe doing well in sort of one of the European countries and playing stylish, attractive football, and I think they'll go down that route. As someone late 30s, managed a smaller team who's done really well, and I think they'll sort of be headhunting that way or that route instead of anywhere in Scotland, if I'm being honest.
Arnold Gudlaugsson, Kim Hellberg, two Scandinavians who've been linked as well.
Totally agree. I think if Tony Bloom's involved, I think that they appointed somebody out of left field for Brighton in the summer there. I think he's 31-year-old. Nobody really had heard of. And the same before that with De Zerbi. So I think that they'll go down, they'll put everything in the mix, and they'll come out with a candidate who plays good football, who's got a great winning percentage, who brings young players through, who sells players on. There'll be a large, catchment of what this manager has to bring to Hearts, and I think it will be someone that's outside Scottish football and wants someone outside the list that the bookies have got at the minute.
Yeah, someone on our feed says they want a Jimmy Talleen type to sprinkle some magic dust on them. And then we've got Kenny, who is an Aberdeen fan, and says, what about Robson or Warnock? Kenny's still in Los Angeles hurting after those experiences up at Pittodrie, where everything is absolutely rosy in the garden. Well, that's Hearts. St Johnstone, Scott Brown seems to be one of the front runners for your old club as well. Ian Murray, because he's basically, there's no compensation now. Peter leaving, and a Larn boss, Tiernan Lynch, was another one that I read. But,
No, you'll know him.
I had him last year.
Any good?
Really good. Really good. I just don't... I think you would need his own type of players. He's very... statistics in terms of how he wants to play, front foot, good football, chances created and all that, but for St Johnstone, in terms of the playing squad that they've got, it needs to be for this season, it needs to be specific because you need to get to January with that batch of players. But there's no doubt Tiernan Lynch will have an opportunity, I think, in the next year to go and take one of the teams in Scotland. I think he's excellent.
Well, that's a good bit of positivity about him. St Johnstone fans out there, what do you think? Who's going to get that big job? That's just what we're talking about at the moment, because amazingly, we're 5 games into... How many games? I think we were... What was the record? Well, we're 7 games in when Jack Ross got the boot.
Yeah, and again, he had a fantastic season the previous season. Scott was there. You know, I've covered most of the games with Hibs TV. You know, fantastic season, finished third, got to a final, got to a semi-final. Disappointing, they lost to St Johnstone on both occasions, but started the following season poorly. I think the last game was Livingston away. I don't know if Scott was there or was playing. Yeah, and the fans just totally turned on him that night. Yeah. I was at the game, and as soon as the final whistle went, they were screaming for his head, and I think there was some members of the board in the stadium that night, and they just, well, it's been proven. I think that Ian Gordon came out and said that they did pull the trigger too early. They went with peer pressure with the supporters, and they wouldn't do that again. But
yeah. Jack Ross hadn't did. He didn't have any luck because he went to Dundee United.
Yeah, did he? And he had credit in the bank. He had credit in the bank at Hibs as well. And he did an identity the way they played. You know, Jack played a lot of good football as well. So, yeah, I think honestly, football management is such a hard job. I think you can never rest on your laurels. I think even if you've won good season, you need to follow that up. You need to keep going like a Derek McInnes or a Stephen Robertson. Guys are consistent season in, season out. You cannot have a bad spell, because everything that went before, everything that just goes out the window.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a changing world of football management. Okay, big games coming up this week. European football to look forward to, of course. Rangers in action as well as Hearts. And we'll obviously get your thoughts, guys, on next week with Dortmund against Celtic. But as far as Rangers are concerned, it's a perfect opportunity after all the consternation and the people jockeying for positions in power at Ibrox with John Bennett stepping down. John Gilligan's come in there. The manager, Philippe Clement, will just be trying to protect his players from all the noise of what's going on, and they've got to go and try and do something against Malmo, who are currently top of the Swedish league.
Yes, it's going to be a really difficult game for them, but one I think that they might... I think historically Rangers have always done pretty well away from home in Europe. You know, the season that they made the Europa League final was probably more based on how well they did away from home. But yeah, it's a tough ask. I think we spoke about it. It's a really difficult group that they've got. So if they want to have any sort of plans of progressing through, they have to go and get at least something away to Malmo on tomorrow night.
Although a lot of people, Scott, talk about the need for Philippe Clement, we've discussed ad nauseum on this programme, the need for him to keep the team on the tracks of winning constantly. Strangely enough, I'm looking at the players that are either back from injury or the players that he's signed, that he's slowly but surely introducing. And I don't know, remember we were talking about, can you try and get to 9 or 10 players that you're definitely going to pick every week? Yeah. You know, the boy Jeffsty's just settling in now. Igamani, everybody's talking about. And the other one, is it Barami? You know, these are players that will all add to the fabric. I mean, the one guy who's just slotted in as if he's been there forever and a day is Barron. But I just get the feeling that they're slowly but surely, after the pain of losing to Celtic, he might just be formulating what he thinks is a good, strong 9 out of the 11.
Yeah, there's no question since the Celtic game that they have put a run a bit of form together in terms of a lot better in terms of on the ball. But I think, as Ryan says, away to Malmo is a very tough game. I remember going there with Celtic in a Champions League qualifier. I think it was Van Dijk's last game, and I don't know what it is about there. The fans are right on top of the stadium. They're better than what you expect them to be. So I'd be very surprised if Rangers get the win there. I think a draw would be a good result. I think it's a very tough ask as the Scandinavians. They've been in their season for a while as well, so they're at kind of maximum fitness. So very tough game, but there has been sign of progress in the last few weeks, and that's something that Rangers fans are kind of looking to at the moment.
Do you think there's a sign of progress in the way they're playing?
Yeah. I think, like you says, the players are starting to settle a bit more. They'll know. Well, I would like to think they know what's now expected of them after the defeat to Celtic and the manner of how they played that day. So there has been progress, because they could have maybe folded, but they put some wins together. Tomorrow night's going to be the biggest test since that game, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, of course. I wonder about what's the most intimidating ground you've been in. Have you played in a European game or somewhere where you just actually? Some people say you try and block the noise out, but
AEK Athens when I was at Hibs.
Yeah.
It was the old stadium. I don't know if you remember Rangers going there many years ago, and it was so we were supposed to play them on September 11th, 2001, and it got postponed obviously with the stuff in America, and then we played them a week later, and there was a minute's silence before the game, and there was like 25,000 Greeks like packed in up on the stadium,
Flares and bombs.
Flares, bombs, were burning American flags, booing. So I mean, it was absolutely crazy, and we lost 2-0. We beat them 2-0 at home, and we went out and away goals in extra time. But probably AEK Athens was probably the most hostile for me. I think anywhere Greece, Turkey, places like that, I think it's intimidating atmospheres.
yeah, I can remember Fenerbahce Rangers where they were pelting the press bus, and I thought, I can't wait for the team to come in. and we were in 2.5 hours before, and there was 20,000 in the stadium. So God knows what the players felt when they got in there. But you in some cases, and we talk about Hearts at Tynecastle, but in some cases there are places where players think, oh, I mean, I think there was a great line from, I think Eric Cantona played for Manchester United in Turkey, and the banners were "Welcome to Hell."
Galatasaray.
Yeah, Galatasaray. It could have been
I played
Galatasaray.
in Fenerbahce for Celtic in Europa League, and it was the whistling and all that. I wouldn't say it was mad intimidating, but it was noisy.
Yeah.
I think the smaller grounds in Scotland are worse than that. You can actually hear what they're calling you.
Ryan, is there something that sticks in your mind?
We had a World Cup playoff in Honduras, and that was like proper crazy. The security we had to have our own hotel with a sort of local army out the front because it was the playoff for the World Cup.
Yeah.
They were setting off the fire alarms, bomb threats.
No sleep?
It wasn't too bad, but it was that case of every time the fire alarm went off, you'd have to go out to the hallway, and they're like, no, it's just someone's triggered it off again. But I remember,
Is it geary?
I was just about to say, did Australia, I was trying to think to myself, did Australia ever go to war with Honduras?
No,
I mean, is there any hostility there?
there was no real need for it at all. We weren't very good as well, but I remember going to the stadium and it was like eerily quiet outside the stadium. So I think we got there maybe like 2.5 hours before we pulled up, and then as we got out the bus, we just realised that everyone was already in the stadium, and it was 60-odd thousand there. And we went out to inspect the pitch. And I think 3 boys got out, and it was just bottles and everything we just came straight back in. The pitch looks good. But that was probably one of the most intense atmospheres that I've been involved in. I think we drew 0-0. We ended up we qualified. We beat them, but that was quite scary because we were there a few days before, and it was.
Honduras is mental, by the way. I've watched a few things like documentaries on Honduras. That's one of the murder capitals of the world.
Like they were setting
Narcos Honduras?
No, I don't know what it is, but Honduras, man, mental.
Like we could hear like gunfire, and we're like, "Is that gun?" They're like, "Yeah, that's gunfire."
The boy that used to play with Rangers get murdered, remember?
That's right.
Yeah.
The boy who played with Rangers get murdered.
What was his
I can't
name?
remember his name. Somebody in this chat might know.
Somebody in the chat will tell us.
Remember
boy
he
that
played with
Hibs
Rangers
had.
and they
played
get
against
assassinated outside his car.
The boy that Hibs had, remember, was it Carlos, something, the little centre midfielder? He played for them.
Aye.
But yeah, that was proper.
Wasn't it Roberto?
Yeah.
Same with Hibs.
No. Well, they did have a big guy, Hurtado. Do you remember him? The big,
Ellie?
Yeah.
No, I played with him at
He
Hibs.
tore his hamstring.
He was for Ecuador.
What was his name?
De La Cruz?
No, something Hurtado.
It was.
Called him the Tank.
It was a big. The Tank. Yeah.
Aye, because that was Alan McLeish brought him over because we signed Ulysses De La Cruz for like £1 million or something, and he was their top player, Ecuador, and he brought a pal a striker, and I thought, oh no, he might be decent. And then after, honestly,
Turned into John.
he was absolutely honking. I was like, he's no way he's playing in front of me. But he was terrible at Hibs, and then he's had a brilliant career everywhere else. So I looked at his Wikipedia, man, the guy scored hundreds of goals, but 100 caps for Ecuador, and he was rubbish at Hibs.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
intense competition.
it all started with Malmo Rangers. Our man Patrick Mullen was out there at the Rangers training centre ahead of them flying out.
Here at the Rangers training centre, where behind me the Rangers team are training ahead of their opening Europa League fixture against Sweden's side Malmo. They'll travel out later this afternoon before heading to the Aladia Stadion for that fixture tomorrow night. Rangers, just like Malmo, fell short in their pursuit of Champions League football after a 3-1 aggregate defeat against Dynamo Kyiv. They will now look to better last season's Europa League record, where they were out of the round of 16 after a defeat against Benfica. A bit of early team news in training. Ridvan Yilmaz still is injured. He is not seen in training, and Oscar Cortes has also been missing from the action here this afternoon. Malmo will have a few injury problems of their own. The big notable one, though, is former Celtic star Sead Haskabanovic. He will play no part tomorrow evening. Looking at Rangers' opposition of Malmo, where they're currently top of the Alvasaken, the Swedish top division, by a massive 11 points to their nearest rivals. 24 league games already under their belt, and you'd have to say a bit of an advantage will be theirs in terms of fitness against Scottish teams in Europe. Well, they've had a fun time since 2011. They faced Scottish teams 4 times and have cruised by every single time. Will it be Fleet Clement's men that get off to the very best start? Will it be the Swedish champions that give them a taste of defeat? Kickoff is tomorrow night at 5:45, and PLZ Soccer will be there live, keeping you up to date.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to hopefully Rangers getting a result, a positive one, because quite simply, as they move forward, they're going to again have to try and get some kind of form. It's not exactly a given right away, Ryan. You know, that you look at the last 4 or 5 years where Rangers have been flagged the flag, doesn't necessarily go hand in hand that this team's going to suddenly be able to produce those performances. We're yet to see them, you know, really get a kind of a run of form, a style, a regular, pick from Philippe Clement.
Yeah, hopefully they played so badly against Celtic, but hopefully some of the newer players came in would understand that the magnitude of that game and that those types of results don't happen at Rangers and they can't happen. So, you know, as much as it was, a terrible result for the whole club and the players, it might be a good little early wake-up call for some of them, knowing that, you know, they can't have those types of performances again, and there's no better way, like you said, to go over to Malmo, get some kind of result. They come back, they've then got another big game against Hibs at the weekend, and then they're at home against Lyon, I think, the following week. So, you know, that's 3 tricky games, but if they can come through those 3 games with some good results, it will start, you know, building that momentum into the rest of the season.
Before I get your prediction, guys, I'm just looking at their side at the moment, Rangers, with Butland in goal, Tavernier, Proper, Suter and Sterling. This is the team that obviously defeated Dundee. Jefte, Barron, Barame, Dessers, Tom Lawrence and Cherny. So there's your 11. And of the subs that come on, Diomandi was there, Cortez, Igamani, McCausland and Casariro. So I'm looking and saying, is there, and obviously Balogun, Raskin are in that mix as well as Kieran Dowell. Is there, out of all of them, is that the strongest starting 11 against Dundee, or would you put maybe one in and one out?
No, I think he'll stick to the same team. I thought they were pretty impressive against Dundee, particularly second half. They've obviously brought some new players in, and they're going to try and bed them in. A little bit disappointed with Cherny. I thought when he first came in, I thought he looked really good. I thought he was poor against Dundee first half.
Yeah.
Igamani's obviously pushing Dessers now for a starting place. A lot of Rangers fans like to look at him. I think he's got a lot of potential as well, but Dessers keeps banging goals in, so he's going to stay in the team. But I don't think he'll deviate too much from the team that beat Dundee. Real impressed with Conor Barron. Looks as if he's been playing for Rangers for years. And Jefte, the left back as well, looks pretty good. So slowly but surely, Peter, the players that they've brought in are starting to show that we can do.
Yeah, do you fancy them?
I think they'll get a point, Peter. I think Malmo are 11 points clear at the top of the Swedish League. They're a good side. They've not got a particularly great record in Europe, Rangers have, so I think 1 each draw for me.
Scott?
Yeah, I would go 1 each. I would echo Tam there, 1 each for me.
I think they'll lose.
Yeah.
I think they'll lose maybe 2-0. But I think the performance will be, they'll be in the game, but I think they'll lose 2 late ones.
Yeah, okay. You're right, barrel of laughs today. But just what? 2-0, like, yeah, 2-0.
We'll wait next week and see what the score is.
The prophet of doom is.
Have you noticed that Gowser's joined this season in the 2 teams he's played for? Have sacked the managers already? St Johnstone and Hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Davy Martindale must be like that. He's cup of tea.
Anyway, I'm going to phone him by your next on the chop because the prophet of doom is here. Will Steven Naismith stay in a job? No, he won't.
Davey will be all right though.
Davey will be right. As long as he doesn't sack me, yeah.
Yeah, Davey will be fine, but that's another thing. You've played, didn't you? Did you play with Steven Naismith as a player?
No, played against them. Never played with them, but played against them.
I think Stevie will get back in at some point.
Yeah, I think
I
think he'll get a job somewhere, Peter. His first season he was excellent, and I think a lot of board members and a lot of clubs will look at it and go, it's a bad spell. I think you can judge him too far on that. I think he'll still get in somewhere, Peter, but he'll take a wee break now.
Yeah, absolutely. And on your point on Czerny, I like to look at him. I thought Czerny looked as if he was
disappointing recently.
Yeah, I thought he was a player that really, with that left peg,
he can cause
people a bit of problems. And actually, when I was looking at and you know what it's like, everybody tells you somebody's a player, but the boy Barami looked all right. And I thought, well, there's the two flanks. That could be, that two-pronged attack, that the crosses into the box, the supply line. You've got Barn in there. I'm still not 100% sure of what their definitive midfield is. Yeah. I think they need a strong midfield three.
What type of player?
I'm expecting more from Diamandi.
Yeah,
but
he's fell off a bit as well.
Yeah, I think to do anything, to win the cup, the League Cup, if they could, if they win against Motherwell and get into the final, and to win it, they are going to have to learn how to boss that midfield. That's the only way they're going to beat Celtic, is to learn how to either destabilise them, nullify them, but boss it. And I still don't see that. And they can talk about the jury's always out in Dessers. I don't want to labour the point with the boy because I just think he goes out and does his best, and it's never enough in some people's eyes. But the midfield is where they've got to boss it, and I don't see it.
It's probably Celtic's strongest area, and they've got quality on the bench. That you've seen it in recent weeks. The players that they're bringing on are arguably, if you ask Celtic fans, you would flip a coin over who they're going to play. So they've got probably 5 options for those 3 positions, and Celtic, Rangers, like you said, has probably only got Barron, and then you're trying to think who else could possibly go in there. So it's up to those players to go in there and really showcase what they can do. I remember playing against Diamandi last year at St Johnstone, and he was very, very good. I remember after the game, a lot of Rangers fans were like, that's the kind of performances that we've been waiting for all season, and I think he's maybe just a little bit too hot and cold to be, being able to sort of get that level of playing each and every week for a club like Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, of the European games coming up, Hearts are away next week to Dynamo Minsk, and Celtic will travel to Dortmund, which will be just a fabulous stadium. I really wish we could go to that.
Yeah, that's the acid test. I think everybody's been really positive about Celtic this season. They've obviously brilliant result performance against Bratislava. Dortmund are a totally different kettle of fish. Got to the final last season. Had to look at their squad the other night. They're very, very strong squad, strong starting lineup. To go to Dortmund to get any sort of result. If Celtic can go there and get a result, a point, you think the Celtic team could do something this season. But until Celtic can prove that they can go away from home in the Champions League and get results, then I still think the jury's going about in terms of them actually getting into the knockout stages.
Have you been to the Westfalen Stadium?
I have, Peter. I went Scotland under 21s many years ago when the full team were playing. So we played Germany the night before and beat them 1-0. Then the full team played at the Dortmund Stadium. We went to the game. Scotland got beat 3-1, but we were all there at the under 21s.
Yeah, I was there that night. It was.
Was it 3-1? I think it was 3-1.
The atmosphere was fantastic.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely, Scotland fans at some stadium.
Yeah.
One behind the goal is one of the biggest stands, and probably the biggest stand in Europe. The one behind the goal with the Dortmund fans are all parked.
The yellow wall.
It's going to be a tough ask for Celtic to get out of that game.
Yeah.
But I see Atlanta lost last night as well at home to Como.
Yeah.
So that's again, Celtic fans will be thinking we can go and get a result there, but it's different doing it than actually saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see positive results, because I think now, and I know it's an old cliche that a lot of journalists, broadcasters, pundits like to be positive about Scottish football, but right now, with the way this coefficient's going, every point's a prisoner for Scottish clubs. You know, we've got to hope Hearts can do something, regardless of who the interim manager is, and Liam Fox, or they eventually get someone in time. But we need points. We need Rangers to, again, continue to fly the flag as they have done. And you need Celtic to do something now. And this is the best chance, I think, of seeing Celtic doing something. The only thing I actually think they're going to lose the next 2 games. But if they got a point in one of them, I'd
Can't
be
say
delighted.
that.
Well,
Big doom and gloom, huh? I said that Rangers won't win at Malmo, and you said they're going to lose the next 2.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I genuinely listened to Brendan Rodgers, and I'm looking at his team, and I look at the way they play right now, and this is the best start of a team that I can think of in a while, since obviously, I mean, even Ange didn't have a great start. No. But this is the best start to a season where suddenly the football looks really, really good. You know, I mean, before, when Brendan came in the first time around, he was building the squad, he was building the team, and you were starting
strength and depth now as well, Peter.
Exactly, they've got strength and depth. They play good football. The press is good when they're off the ball. You know, we all know that they've got 1 or 2 weaknesses in the side that need to be addressed at times, but I just think they're good. We're about to find out how good they are away from home. If they got 1 point out of 6, I think they'd be delighted.
Yeah, I think we'll maybe be a bit more positive with that and go with what Tam says. Obviously, with Atlanta last night, conceding 3 goals at home. Cesc Fabregas, who's the manager of Como, will play the same brand that Celtic do, trying to play through and sort guys out and obviously get the attacking players on the ball. And I can assure you that Como won't have the speed that Celtic have in the final third with guys like Maeda. So they'll be breaking that down and think there's a chance there to hurt Atalanta. Borussia Dortmund, on the other hand, it's going to be a real difficult task. But I think that will be something that Brendan Rodgers and that will be looking to, especially after that defeat at home, because Celtic do have players who can hurt you. They're going to create chances. I know we're speaking about a minute back about Rangers coming in and how would they stop this Celtic midfield. I think the Celtic midfield takes physicality out the battle because the movement's so good and they're so sharp with the ball.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to the Dortmund game, to be honest.
I quite like the he's called the Slabbering Cabbage, who says Peter talks some amount of, let's rephrase it, crap. If the Slabbering Cabbage had an opinion, well, he doesn't have a point, he's still to make it, but if he had an opinion, he'd be able to tell us how many points Celtic are going to get in the next 2 games. If I'm the prophet of doom, let's hear from the prophet of optimism in Scott Allen. And are you going to offer us 1 point or 3 points out of the 6 for the next 2 games?
4. That's a good question.
He's going to go 6 and Celtic win the Champions League.
And by the way, Tam and I mentioned to you at the start of the programme that we thought you'd lost your edge in the last week or 2.
What edge is that?
That edge of just getting in there with a couple of tackles,
He's got hurt.
And then sometimes Tam said to me, you know what's happened, don't you? And I was sitting down with Tam, we had a big meeting about it, because he said Gowser's really stepped up to the plate. And then Tam turned around and he went, Scott just had too many. He's just had too many touches on Radio Clyde Super Scoreboard. He's gone soft. He's letting a 75-year-old man dominate the phone in while you can't offer an opinion. I mean, even I could leather Keevans.
You've been dying to say that. Honestly,
even I could leather Keevans. I could leather Keevans into left field when I was on that programme. I mean,
we need to concentrate on our own show here, Peter. We need to concentrate.
No, we need to look at the opposition and see why you've lost your edge. Give us the points.
It's been flying, to be fair.
Give us it. Is it 3 or is it 6? Or is it none?
I think Celtic create chances. I'll go 3. I think they could maybe produce a win away.
Who against?
Atalanta.
Atalanta. Right. By the way, and we are going to allow you to come in with that condescending look if Celtic.
He's going to do the Conor McGregor walk right in. Celtic beat Atlanta. He's entitled to do that.
Absolutely. By the way,
All
Get
things
that up,
going
you
well.
Peter.
I'll tell you right now.
Things going well, that is. I'm not just going to say a point. I think what they've gave us this season can allow you to go that you could maybe fancy them to win one away from home.
So you think it's Atalanta?
Yeah.
Listen, by the way, if that happens, you know, the Celtic support are going to go into
Look at
overdrive.
Philip Clement last year, goes away and wins in Betis. A game maybe not fancied for, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this team's flying, it's confident, creating chances, defending better, dominating the ball. And I like Como obviously go down, just promoted to Serie A. We have a manager who would be of the similar brand as what Brendan is, and scores 3 goals.
Yeah. Jeff likes what you've said. He says Atalanta have just been beaten by the team in bottom place. I want 3 points. Why not? So he's with you, which is fine.
They conceded 3 goals at home, so there's deficiencies there.
Yeah, absolutely. Big thank you to Jeff Allen, Scott's brother, for just messaging in there to boost his confidence.
See you at home, Jeff.
Ryan, Ryan, are you going to be as confident as your man?
Yeah, I think they'll get. I don't think they'll get anything from Dortmund, but I think they'll have one eye on Atalanta. I think that's the chance for them to get some points. So I fancy them to win that game.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll go for Celtic to beat Atlanta and get beat off of Dortmund. So I think they'll pick up 3 points from the 2 away games.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. This is like
There's a big gloom there.
Joe,
Zero.
say something. You're
We're
talking.
building you up now.
You're talking to me. I mean, I've
See, they're going to pick up 6 points. We can get back in. Stop sticking the knife in.
I'm just
Stop the bitterness and just say Celtic are going to win.
We'll get him in.
See it.
We'll get him in for Clyden. We'll get you in.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, it's all about opinions. I'm looking at them and I'm saying they've had a great start. They're playing great football. Are they good enough to go away and win the 2 games? We're about to find out if they've got that game. And remember, by the way, the best 2 games that I witnessed with Brendan Rodgers in charge in European football was Man City home and away. I mean, they were fantastic games, but this is why he was brought back. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, you know, he is the top coach, the best coach in Scotland for me. But this start to the season has been brilliant. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching the way they're playing, watching the team and how it's developing. I still think they should have bought a striker. I'm looking and I'm saying to myself,
Another striker.
they should have had another striker. Absolutely. I still think they should have had one more striker. But
What brings you to just it being a point then for you?
I just don't see the
Is that previous campaigns?
I'm looking
If
and I'm
you're
saying,
looking-
have they come along far enough that they won't be exposed at the back? I think there are weaknesses in the back, left side, central, left back, and I think they get found out there. And we're about to find out if they go there and they suddenly get to a situation where they can play that high press, they can pick their moment, they can score the goal away from home that suddenly delivers something that they can hold on to.
Yeah.
All well and good. If I was picking a weakness in the Celtic side, it's just left of centre. That's all. The rest of it looks fantastic. It's great to watch. They're not getting pressed at the back more often than not in the games. Who's pressing them?
It's because
the best
it's
side that's come to
control the
Celtic
ball, though.
Park, Brendan Rodgers wasn't trying to noise up Rangers. He was just stating the bloody obvious, which is Paul Falkert with them. Falkert played the best football that I've seen played at Celtic Park this season because they played a pressing game and they said, by the way, we have confidence in our players to try and play triangle passes around them when we've got the ball. Yeah. And they played good football to their credit.
Yeah, they did. I still think this Celtic team is probably the strongest squad I've seen in a long time, Peter. And the starting 11 is good, but you look at the bench and you look at even the weekend there, they're bringing on quality players, and I think that's been Celtic's problem. I don't think they've been that far away under Ange Postecoglou and Brendan, but I think the last 20-25 minutes they're getting done. They've seen it last season because they're bringing players on that are not the quality of Champions League football.
Yeah.
I think this season, with 20-25 minutes to go, you bring Eider on for Kyogo, for example. You maybe bring the guy Trusty on for Scales. You bring Engels or you bring Bernardo on. You know, you've got real strength and depth there, and I think that's going to be the key for Celtic is 60, 70 minutes they done well last season, and then at the end they collapsed. They lost late goals, Lazio, home and away, Atletico Madrid at home. So listen, they lost late goals, and that was the key for me, but I think they've got a stronger squad this season, so I think that's why they can go away to probably Atlanta and get something. But I don't think Dortmund will be a tough game.
Okay, hope you're right. All three of you have been. It's been like somebody caught down an alley and they can't get up over the fences. The three, you just put the boot into me. But yep, we'll live to fight another day. I hope you're right. What did you make of the draw for the League Cup semi-final?
I think everyone could have guessed that was going to be the draw, isn't
Oh,
it?
conspiracy theories now, eh?
It just happens to
ball,
often, doesn't it?
big ball, wee ball.
It just happens a lot.
Conspiracy.
But it just happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, probability.
Chances of it happening so many times
Exactly.
is crazy. But yeah, I think obviously Rangers will be, if you're going to try and rank them, they would have wanted Motherwell. No disrespect, but I think with Aberdeen, Rangers and Celtic, they would have probably been wanting to avoid each other. So I think Rangers have got the better of that draw, and it sets it up that the Celtic Aberdeen one could be real tricky for Celtic. Even though it's still a couple of weeks away, it will be one that Aberdeen will be fully confident going into.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love somebody to do. I mean, I know Rod Stewart did the draw half pissed, but I'd love somebody to do the draw in the last four and put their hand in and go, "Oh, that ball's roasting."
What's to sell it?
But I take his point. I'll tell you one thing though. I mean, we have Kenny and we have various Aberdeen fans on. They'll get into overdrive if suddenly they start, taking scalps along the way. But we all know what October's bringing for the Dons.
Yeah, I think that Aberdeen fans are really excited at the minute, the way their team's playing. 11 wins in a row is fantastic. I think they'll really start to believe and get excited if they take a scalp, and the scalp for me is Celtic. That's a big scalp for me, or even Rangers. And they could maybe think to themselves, oh, we've got a wee chance of second place this season if they can beat Rangers and keep their run going. But that's a big one for me. And Celtic are in the midst of a really busy period as well. European games and league games. Aberdeen should be well rested for that. Celtic are in the back of European games, so I still think Celtic are big favourites. But you've seen last season Aberdeen ran Celtic close, very close, and a poor Aberdeen team. I think this Aberdeen team is a lot better. The Celtic team's a lot better. But I think if Aberdeen can take a scalp, go and beat Celtic or Rangers, I think the fans would really start to believe that it could be a special season for them. Yeah,
absolutely. We're fast approaching October when all those tests are coming for the Dons, but right now it's all rosy in the garden. We were talking about players and whether they played too many games. Rodri had brought that point up last week, and would you believe it, he's got a knee ligament injury, and Pep Guardiola has mentioned that he's facing a heck of a long time on the sidelines.
Still, we don't have the definitive. We'll be out for a long time, a while. But there is some opinions that maybe will be less than we expect. So, but unfortunately, it was injured, and right now still I cannot tell you because we are waiting the last phone calls from him and the doctors to know exactly what definitely he has and the type of surgery that he has to get.
Oh, you couldn't make it up, could you? Rodri talking about too many games. Next minute, he'll not be kicking a ball this season, they reckon.
Yeah, it was. I watched the game. He's obviously trying to get away from his man at the corner, and the knee goes by the looks of it. So I don't think it's actually. I think with ACL, I don't think it's actually to do with how many games you've. I think that's just sometimes your luck.
Yeah,
it was like a hamstring or a quad or something like that. So very unfortunate. Probably one of my favourite players to watch in world football at the moment. One of the best controllers that there is. So disappointing, obviously, for Man City, but disappointing for all of us who like watching football.
Surprised actually you said that. What makes, I mean, from you, who was your favourite midfielder of all time that you loved watching, that you thought, oh, if I could model myself on him, it would be?
I liked obviously Zidane, the first one. Riquelme, do you remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah, loved him. I watched him at Ibrox for Villarreal one night, and he was outstanding. Defence splitting passes, so someone who I really liked. And now, probably my favourite player in the English Premier League would be Odegaard. I love him.
Yeah?
Yeah, love him. I don't know what you think of that, but I think when he plays, he makes him tick.
Yeah. Did you see the fear of his look there when he looked round and said, I don't know what you think, we're going to all bludgeon you on it. He is a good player. He was one of those players that I think
Dyla brought him.
Celtic tried to get him on loan at 16 and he ended up opting for Real Madrid.
Yeah, he did, I think. Listen, it's never easy, obviously. Well, none of us can speak, to be honest, but he's went to Real Madrid for big money at a young age. A lot of pressure on him, but he's just grew into the Arsenal strip. And like I said, he makes him tick. Some of the things he does is he's a wee throwback to when we spoke about number 10s a month back, who in the tight spaces just can get out of them and then slip passes through.
And why Rodri's a wee bit different?
Just can do everything, can't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rodri just does everything. Rodri passes the ball forward quickly. So you don't get the ball in areas without guys like that. He's off the ball very good.
Okay, good insight from you. We always like to see Scottish players doing well. Boy, there's a fair bit of hysteria following Scott McTominay's starting debut.
He's class.
Oh, they're absolutely going ballistic over in Italy for him, saying he could be the next icon.
It just goes to show you. Hopefully that builds up the Scottish boys' confidence, and it also makes the sort of whole European campaign in the Euros a bit disappointing, because we know that we've got players that can go out and perform in these big clubs and big leagues, and John McGinn playing in the Champions League. The boys at Celtic, they just need to almost believe in themselves a little bit more, and hopefully that showcases Italian football, that there's good players in Scotland, and the more players you can get playing abroad and playing in these big leagues, the better for the national team.
Yeah, it's a big change, isn't it? You think about the players in the last, 5 years, guys? The last 5 years there's been, I think maybe a wee bit longer on the basis that we had them on the show. I think Ruffy and I had him on the show in the first 2 or 3 years was obviously Mark Hateley's boy, Tom, and we had Barry Douglas on the show as well, and the Ziggy Gordon.
Yep.
Went out to Poland and played for 2 clubs out there, so they made the move. But then all of a sudden you started to get more than a few
Dean
players.
Henderson still playing centre mid for Empoli. Haven't really spoken about as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's completely and utterly just off the radar, isn't he?
Yeah. He's now Italian. He can speak fluent Italian now. He does all his interviews in Italian. I'm still in contact with him, but plays regularly for Empoli in centre midfield. So obviously we speak about Gilmore. Josh Doig went out last year. He's at Sassuolo now. It's good to see. I think we all kind of wish 15 years ago guys were taking Scottish players, but it was always about going down to England. Now they can see that we've got quality, so something's been done right.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And I was just about to say to you, guys, if there was one Italian team that you would love to have joined.
Roma.
Yeah, good shout. Mental set of fans, great atmosphere.
Milan.
Yeah.
Milan for me.
Yeah.
Milan, yeah.
Napoli for me. I've seen the parties that Maradona used to do. I don't bite you that. Oh yes.
We had exactly. We had Sam. There's always going to be an angle for you. We had one of our reporters went out, and Napoli is a place which is just a shrine to Maradona. I mean, it's incredible.
Documentaries are fantastic. Maradona films unbelievable.
See, he drives in the car and the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. Napoli's a good shout. I can understand where you're going with that as well. I wonder how those two will be hanging about with each other non-stop.
Wasted on them,
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, if ever there's a game and a set of footballers that you think can cut it there, it's those two, because Scott's one thing, but of course, and Billy Gilmore, I think once he gets in,
Two great signings for him. Two great signings for him.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Oh, brilliant.
Completely different type of players as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gary Connor leaves us with possibly the best point of the whole programme as we're just about to say goodbye. Guys, he says, my granny wants to know which curtain shop made Tam's trousers. Because
Who's that?
Gary Connor, not
Gary O'Connor.
I was going to say that.
Not the one
As soon as he heard Napoli parties, he was writing the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, out of all the guys that I know, your clobber is
Horrendous.
just horrendous, isn't it? I mean, you wear
Gets the punters talking, doesn't it?
absolutely.
Sam embraces it. He does
care,
that. Does
yeah.
not bother him. No.
Yeah.
Well, you just don't bother. It's like you're minted and you just dress like a Jake.
I'm quite. That's exactly it, Tom.
That's how you know you're minted.
I care.
Javianis in the winter.
Absolutely. I'm not giving out two. It's once you get to my age, you think, why bother now? I've got everything that we need. Anyway, as far as we're concerned, we might be a mile out, but the two catalogue boys on the left,
They're
will be,
looking good, isn't they? They're looking good, the
they are
boys.
looking good, aren't
They're
they?
looking good, the boys.
There's nothing worse than still being thin.
Remember that,
Getting
no?
into a 32 waist.
Aye, that's what happens when you're still playing. Me, you're free to retire.
Aye,
You're
absolutely. Your wife starts saying, why don't we just get a Domino's? We'll stay in. Not bothered getting out. Anyway, great to have Scott and Ryan here on a Wednesday. Always good for a good noise up. Hit the subscribe button if you can. And if you get a chance, download the app as well. We've got some great interviews and unique video content on our YouTube channel. I think you really will enjoy. Well worthy, if you're a football fan, of having a wee look at our Hibs documentary. Just 10 minutes of your time to get a wee insight into the club. Pat Stanton's on it, Marvin Bartley. They're all talking about the fans, the different levels of hospitality you can get. There's so much attached to a game of football now.
I was going to watch it later.
Well, to be fair, commercially, they're doing everything they can to give the manager the money to put a good team in the park. But as we all know, Tam, it's a good watch. But over and above that, if they get a winning team on the park, they'll easily sell all the levels of hospitality.
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, you just when I was there, it was just concourses of nothing really, just burgers and chips. Now you're getting the full hospitality treatment. And as I said, they just need to get it right on the park, and I think Hibs will shortly.
Okay. Thanks to Scott. Thanks to Ryan. Thanks to Tam. From myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching and listening on the podcast.